Everyone talks about starting over. Almost nobody tells you what it actually costs. They make it sound like a decision. Wake up one day, choose a new life, and walk into it. One post, one quote, one moment of inspiration, and suddenly everything is different. But reinvention was never a switch you flip. It's a structure you rebuild, piece by piece, decision by decision, day by day. And structures don't rise overnight. They rise brick by brick in the hands of someone who shows up long after the excitement fades. Somewhere along the way, you built a version of your life. Some of it you built on purpose, some of it life built for you, man, through fear, through people who hurt you, through years of simply trying to survive one more day. And now parts of that structure are cracking. The job that drains you, the habits that keep you stuck, the version of yourself you don't recognize anymore. You look in the mirror some mornings and wonder how you ended up carrying a life that feels heavier than the one you imagined for yourself. Here's the truth this season is built on. You don't need a different life. You need to rebuild the one you have from the ground up, on a foundation strong enough to hold what you're becoming. This isn't about escaping your life. It's about reconstructing it brick by honest brick until it can finally hold the deep weight of who you're meant to be. Maybe you've already tried this before. You've bought the course. You've made the vision board. You've had the tearful prayer at 2 a.m. promising things would be different this time. And for a while they were, until the same walls cracked again in the same places for reasons you never quite understood. That's not because you failed. It's because nobody ever taught you that reinvention isn't an event. It's a construction project. And every construction project needs more than motivation. It needs a plan, a foundation, and someone willing to show up on the days when nothing feels inspiring at all. And today, we start with the first and hardest truth about rebuilding anything: the myth of starting over. Starting over is one of the most repeated phrases in self-help. Every January, millions of people say it. Every heartbreak, every failure, every rock-bottom moment, and the same words come out: I'm starting over. But it's also one of the most misleading, because starting over implies that everything before this moment was wasted. That the only way forward is to erase the past and begin again from nothing. Like none of it counted. That sounds inspiring on a poster. It's also a lie. Nobody actually starts from zero. You carry your experience, your wounds, your lessons, your faith, your failures, even the years you'd rather forget, taught your hands something they didn't know before: how to survive, how to notice danger, how to keep breathing when everything fell apart. Think about someone renovating an old house instead of demolishing it. They don't tear down every wall, they walk through the property first. They find what's structurally sound and the bones worth keeping, and they build around that. Only the rotted, unsafe parts come down. Real reinvention works the same way. It isn't demolition. It's renovation. You keep the foundation that's solid. You tear out what's rotting. You reinforce what's weak. And slowly the structure becomes something new, without pretending the old one never existed. So if you've been waiting for a clean slate before you begin, stop waiting. There is no clean slate. There never was. There's only the structure you already have, cracks and all, and the decision to finally repair it, instead of running from it. Notice what this means practically. It means you don't need to quit your job, move to another country, or cut off everyone you know to reinvent your life. Sometimes the most radical rebuilding happens without a single external thing changing. Same job, same house, same city, but a completely different foundation. Underneath, different beliefs, different boundaries, a different relationship with fear. The outside world may not even notice at first. That's fine. Foundations are underground. Nobody applauds a foundation. They only ever notice years later that the building is still standing when everything around it fell. What you're really avoiding. Most people don't struggle to rebuild their lives because they lack a plan. They've read the books. They've saved the reels. They know exactly what a better life should look like on paper. They struggle because rebuilding requires walking back through the wreckage first. And that's the part everyone avoids. It's easier to buy a new planner than to ask why the last 5 never worked. It's easier to chase a new relationship than to understand what you kept repeating in the last one. It's easier to dream about the future than to look honestly at what broke in the past. Imagine a structural engineer called in after a building starts to crack. He doesn't ignore the cracks and repaint the walls. He studies them. He traces every fracture back to where the structure first gave way, even if that means going underground into the parts nobody wanted to look at. Only then does he know how to reinforce it. Only then can he tell you with honesty whether the building can be saved and what it will take to save it. Your life works the same way. Before you build anything new, you have to be willing to walk through the wreckage, honestly, without excuses, without blaming everyone except yourself. What relationship taught you to expect too little? What failure taught you to stop trying before you even start? What version of comfort have you been mistaking for peace? That's not self-punishment. That's not dwelling in the past for the sake of misery. That's the first job of anyone who's serious about rebuilding, because you cannot repair what you refuse to inspect. This is usually where people quit before they even start. The inspection is uncomfortable. It means admitting you stayed somewhere too long because you were afraid of being alone. It means admitting you chased a career that impressed everyone except you. It means admitting some of the wreckage you built with your own hands. But an inspection isn't a verdict. It's information. The cracked wall doesn't mean the whole building is worthless. It means you finally know where to start. And knowing where to start is worth more than another 5 years of decorating a structure that was never going to hold. Give yourself the same patience you'd give someone else's ruined building. You wouldn't stand in front of a bombed-out structure and mock the owner for not rebuilding it in a weekend. You'd expect the process to take time, expertise, and repeated attempts to get it right. Extend that same grace to your own life. The inspection is slow because the damage took years to happen. It won't be undone by Thursday. You can't build on a broken foundation. Here's a mistake almost everyone makes when they try to change their life. They focus on the parts people can see. A better job title, a better body, a better relationship status, visible walls, fresh paint, things you can post about, things that get comments, things that make the outside look like progress. But if the foundation underneath is still broken, the way you see yourself, the wounds you never processed, the beliefs that quietly run your decisions, the new walls will crack too. Maybe not right away. Maybe it takes a year or 5. But eventually the pressure finds every weak point. There's an old teaching about 2 builders, one who builds his house on rock and one who builds on sand. From the outside, both houses can look identical. Same walls, same roof, same paint. The difference only becomes visible when the storm comes. The one built on rock stands. The one built on sand collapses because what held it up was never strong enough to begin with. This is why some people reinvent themselves 5 times and still end up in the same place, just with a different name. On it, a new city, a new job, a new relationship, the same emptiness underneath. They kept building on top of the same broken foundation. Real rebuilding starts underground when nobody's watching. It starts with your relationship with yourself, your relationship with God, the quiet decisions nobody applauds, forgiving what still stings, telling yourself the truth. Instead of the comfortable version, choosing to believe you're worth the effort before you have proof. That's unglamorous work, but it's the only work that lasts through the storm. This is why 2 people can go through the exact same hardship and come out completely different. One rebuilds the foundation first, heals, reflects, rebuilds their beliefs about themselves. The other rushes straight to new walls, a new relationship, a new image, without ever touching what actually cracked. Years later, one is standing. The other is renovating the same collapse for the 3rd time, wondering why nothing ever seems to hold. You can usually tell which kind of rebuild you're looking at by how it responds to pressure. A foundation first rebuild might look slower, quieter, less impressive at first, but when hardship returns, and it always does, it holds. A wall's first rebuild often looks more impressive in year 1 and more fragile by year 3. Slow and structural, beats fast and cosmetic, every single time the storm actually comes. Every rebuilding starts with ruins. If you look at your life right now and see wreckage instead of progress, I need you to hear this. Ruins are not the end of the story. They're where every rebuilding begins. There's a story of a man named Nehemiah who returned to his home city after years away and found nothing but broken walls and burned gates, a city so exposed and ruined that people were ashamed to even speak of it. He didn't have an army. He didn't have resources. What he had was a decision to pick up the first stone anyway. No one lays the first brick of something meaningful on a life that never fell apart. Every person who has ever rebuilt anything worth having first had to stand in the middle of what didn't work. The failed business before the one that worked. The broken relationship before they understood what love actually required. The rock bottom before the turning point. The difference between people who stay in the ruins and people who rebuild isn't talent. It isn't luck. It isn't even resources. It's the decision to pick up one brick when the whole structure still feels like rubble and start anyway. You don't need to see the finished building today. You don't need a blueprint for the next 10 years. You just need to lay one brick today. Tomorrow, one more. That's how every wall that was ever rebuilt actually went up. Not in a single miraculous night, but stone by stone, by people who refused to stay sitting in the rubble. What made Nehemiah's story remarkable wasn't the size of the wall. It was that he finished what everyone else assumed was impossible, and he did it while people mocked him the entire way, telling him it couldn't be done, that the ruins were permanent, that he was wasting his time. He built anyway. Some of your rebuilding is going to happen while people who watched you fall doubt you can rise. Let them doubt. Lay the brick anyway. The danger of rebuilding the same way. Here's something few people warn you about. It's possible to rebuild your entire life and still end up exactly where, you started because you used the same broken blueprint. You've probably seen it, maybe even lived it. Same fears making the decisions, same type of people influencing your choices, same coping mechanisms, just wearing a new outfit and calling themselves self-care. Someone moves to a new city to escape a toxic pattern, and 6 months later finds themselves surrounded by the same dynamic, different faces. Someone leaves one relationship and walks straight into another that echoes it almost. Exactly. Different location, different job, same architecture underneath. If you don't change the blueprint, you'll eventually rebuild the same collapse, just with better decoration. Prettier version of the same weight, a more impressive version of the same exhaustion. So before you rebuild anything, ask yourself the harder question. Not what do I want to change, but what pattern do I need to stop repeating? Is it the fear of speaking up? The habit of choosing people who don't choose you back? The need to stay busy so you never have to sit with what's actually wrong? That answer, the pattern underneath the pattern, is your new blueprint. Find it and you finally build something that doesn't fall the moment the pressure returns. This is often the loneliest part of rebuilding, because changing the blueprint sometimes means changing who's allowed near the construction site. Not everyone who watched you build the old version of your life will understand the new one. Some will call it change for the worse. Some will miss the old you, the one who tolerated more, expected less, and never rocked the boat. That reaction isn't proof you're on the wrong path. Often it's proof the blueprint is finally different. It also helps to remember that a blueprint isn't fixed the moment you draw it. You're allowed to revise it as you go, as you learn more about what actually caused the old collapse, as you understand yourself with more honesty than you had access to the first time around. Rebuilding isn't a single decision made once. It's 100 small corrections made by someone paying closer attention than they used to. Faith is the first brick. You can have the clearest plan in the world and still freeze at the foundation, because rebuilding requires believing in something you cannot yet see. That's where faith comes in. Not faith as a performance, not faith as a Sunday routine. Faith as the decision to lay the first brick before you have proof it will hold. There's a moment in Scripture where a man steps out of a boat and walks on water. Not because the water suddenly became solid, but because he decided to move before he had evidence it would work. He sank. A moment he stopped trusting and started calculating. But for those first few steps, faith carried what logic alone never could have. Every person who has ever rebuilt their life had to trust something bigger than their current evidence, that the effort mattered, that they weren't building alone, that the God who saw them in the ruins would meet them in the reconstruction, not because the outcome was guaranteed, but because staying in the rubble was guaranteed to lead nowhere. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need the full blueprint before you lay the first stone. You need to believe this is worth building, even before it looks like anything yet, mice, because that quiet, uncomfortable trust is the first brick every rebuild actually stands on. This kind of faith isn't reckless. It's not pretending the ruins don't exist, or ignoring wisdom in the name of belief. It's the decision to keep working, praying, showing up, laying the next stone while you wait. For the parts you can't yet see, faith and effort were never opposites. The strongest rebuilds happen at exactly the place where both meet. Small rebuilds nobody sees. Nobody posts about the small rebuilds. Waking up 30 minutes earlier, saying no to something that used to control you, praying instead of spiraling at 2 a.m., choosing silence instead of an old argument you've already had 100 times. These moments don't look like transformation. There's no before and after photo for them. They look like nothing. A quiet decision in an ordinary Tuesday that nobody else will ever know happened. But structures aren't built in dramatic moments. They're built brick by brick, in rooms no one is filming, the gym session with no one watching, the boundary you set even though it disappointed someone. The version of you that chose discipline over the version that just wanted to disappear back into old comfort. If today all you did was lay one honest brick, one boundary, one hard conversation, one moment you chose faith over fear, that counts. That is the rebuild, not the highlight reel everyone else sees. The bricks nobody claps for. Those are the ones that actually hold the weight of everything you're becoming. Give yourself permission to move slowly here. Rebuilding doesn't reward speed, it rewards consistency. A wall built too fast, without letting each layer set, collapses under its own weight. A wall built patiently, one row at a time, outlasts storms it was never even designed to survive. This is probably the hardest part of the whole season to accept, because we live surrounded by fast transformations. The 30-day challenge, the before and after, the dramatic reveal. But your life isn't a renovation show with a runtime to hit. Let some seasons of your rebuild be boring. Let some months look like nothing happened, when in reality the mortar was simply setting, doing its quiet, invisible, absolutely essential work. The life you're reconstructing is still yours. Somewhere in this process, you might feel like you're becoming someone else entirely, like the person doing all. This rebuilding is a stranger wearing your name. You're not. You're not erasing yourself. You're reclaiming yourself. The version that existed. Before fear, before disappointment, before you started building around your wounds instead of past them. Think of it less like construction and more like excavation. Underneath everything you had to build just to survive. The walls, the defenses, the habits that kept you safe but small, there was always someone truer. The reconstruction isn't turning you into a stranger. It's stripping away everything that was never really you in the first place. What's left, when the dust finally settles, won't be a new person wearing your face. It will be the truest version of the one who was buried under everything you had to survive. Steadier, more honest, finally standing on a foundation that can actually hold. So if you're standing in your own ruins right now, unsure whether any of this is even possible for you, let this be the moment you pick up the first stone. Not because you feel ready, not because you can see the finished structure yet, but because somewhere underneath everything that broke, there is still a foundation worth building on, and it has been waiting patiently for you to finally start. If this reached something in you, subscribe. This season, we're rebuilding together, one episode at a time. Now I want to hear from you. What's the first brick you're laying today? Write it in the comments. Never forget, you're stronger than you think. Before you go, there's something we need to talk about next. You can rebuild every structure of your life and still be building it for the wrong person if you've never actually met the God you're building it for. Next episode, we go there. I'll see you in the next chapter.